Up of Russian forces along the border with Ukraine is reportedly setting off alarms for the U.S. and its allies. According to the New York Times, analysts say the mobilization by the Kremlin is intended to send a message to world leaders, adding the move is, quote, increasingly seen as an early foreign policy test for the Biden administration, which just hit Moscow with a new round of sanctions. In the past month, Russia has amassed its largest military presence in the region in nearly 7 years, when the country forcibly annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. The U.S. and its allies are now monitoring the situation as they try to determine whether the Kremlin is preparing to escalate matters further. New York Times reporter Andrew Kramer has been covering this story from the ground. He joins me now from Moscow. Andrew, welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. You have witnessed this military buildup firsthand. What are you seeing exactly, and what are locals saying?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me on. I traveled to southern Russia a week ago, and this is a very visible buildup. You can see off of public roads, trucks parked in the forest. You see tents. So there's really been no attempt to make this a secretive military operation. Also, quite a few videos have appeared online in Russia showing tanks, showing self-propelled artillery and other weapons moving on trains or moving on flatbed trucks in different parts of Russia. And as you can see from some of the pictures you've been showing in your show, these are very easily seen shows of force. You have these sort of things happening beside public roads and in the middle of towns even.
So what might be Russia's motivation for carrying out this military buildup in such a public way?
Well, some of the theories are that this is an early test of the Biden administration, really sort of asking the question of how they'll react to this buildup, what moves they'll take in relation to Ukraine. Another idea is that this is pressure being applied on Ukraine, trying to force Ukraine to soften its stance in settlement negotiations over the eastern Ukraine conflict.
Is there a sense, Andrew, what the end game is now? Russia has sent forces into neighboring Georgia, forcibly annexed Ukrainian territory in the Crimean Peninsula back in 2014. Is it clear now what Vladimir Putin is trying to accomplish?
No, it's not. And there's, I think, an intentional ambiguity in what this buildup means. Some of the ideas of perhaps moves in the near future would be to send Russian troops into Ukraine as peacekeepers, or to make a small advance for strategic gain in the south of Ukraine to obtain water canals that supply Crimea. Both of these would be a very dramatic escalation in the Ukraine conflict and would certainly result in Western sanctions. Longer term, Russia has declared a sphere of influence in this region, and it assumes that former Soviet states are within that sphere of influence, and in this case, it is using military force to really pressure Ukraine and the West in relation to settlement talks, in relation to internal politics in Ukraine as well.
Well, Ukraine is an ally, not a member of NATO. Could we, though, see NATO involvement, and what would that look like?
Well, it doesn't seem likely that NATO would have any direct involvement. The Obama administration early in the Ukraine crisis said there was no role militarily for the United States in the conflict. And I don't think that that's changed significantly. NATO has made diplomatic statements, and the U.S. has increased its troop forces in Germany, but that's quite a ways from the conflict in eastern Ukraine. So I think NATO's role would be limited to a diplomatic role in this case.
All right. Well, if this is indeed a test of the Biden administration, we'll wait to see what the administration's response is. And
all right, Shalom. I'd like to start off by saying Ka Halayim La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Harikakadash, by Ma. Double honors to the elder apostles, great millstone, my elder Herowan as well. Salutations to the occupant that are pushing the truth, to sincerity and truth, and peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right, it says photos show Russia's military buildup near Ukraine as Putin claims domination over more of the region's sea and air. right? So now you're seeing this buildup, man, and this man, this is Kahalayim La Yahweh Shimya Shai. This is the things that we want to see, and possibly let's see if United States tries to, or NATO tries to call their bluff, um because the president of Ukraine said that no more promises and words from the Biden administration. He said they need to see some actions. They need help over there in Ukraine. I did a lesson about a week ago about the president of Ukraine being on the front lines with his soldiers, um, assessing the troop buildup over in that peninsula area over there. So it's a beautiful thing, man, for us to be able to see this. That's just all according to Yahweh Shimon Shai, and understanding these prophecies, man. So with that being said, you have Russia building up their military force. First, they were saying that they were going to be try to. They don't want anything to do with war. They don't want to do with provocations of war, and they're trying to keep the peace. And then next they said, damn the peace. They felt like they can escalate to de-escalate, meaning if they show their muscles, then the rest of the world will back down and be still. And that's kind of what you're seeing right now. All right, so he just flipped his mind from the peace negotiating to where he says he's going to create peace. Now, Biden's response to this is um, these sanctions, but Russia's not giving a damn about these sanctions. You can sanction all you want, because what are they doing? They're creating scenarios or situations to where they can do trade, well, from bilateral moves, slucking, not dealing with the petrodollar or the United States dollar, and dealing strictly with the yuan or the ruble, forming alliances with Iran and forming major alliances economically with China. All right, China is thought of as an ally to the United States, but in theory, ally, but actually, uh, um, opposite, or a threat or an enemy, um, of the United States. All right. Let me read a little bit of this article. It says Moscow tension between Russia and the West has escalated further this week, with Russia staging more military exercises in the Black Sea and massing thousands of forces at Ukraine's border. Right. So now, this started in 2014 when Russia annexed the Crimea, um, um, back to their possession. All right. So now they went from that, and ultimately, NATO wants Ukraine to be a part of NATO. And if Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, then that that would have United States and Ukraine totally surrounding Russia, and Russia doesn't want that to happen. So this is Russia flexing their muscles, showing that there's stability within their military and their government, that they're not going to allow that to happen. But this is all prophetic, man. All right. Let me get Isaiah chapter 13 verse 17, because um like the bear, which is Russia, was in hibernation. All right, and the Lord's going to stir them up, turn them back, put the hooks into their jaws, according to Ezekiel 38, and turn them back, pull them back to be in the Soviet Union, right? And from then they're going to think of evil thought, all right? Because first, as they were doing that, they were talking about peace. They don't want war. They don't want to see World War III because it'll be catastrophic. And then they're saying, okay, we can escalate to de-escalate, force everybody else to back down if we step forward. And that's what you're seeing happen. So a change in the mindset of Russia and their administration on how they want to handle everything that's going on over there dealing with Ukraine. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 13, verse all right, Shalaki, this is Isaiah chapter 13, verse 17. It says, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. So there's no way America's going to be able to buy them out or offer them anything, or impose sanctions that's going to stop or um, change the mind of Vladimir Putin. Because in the beginning they were talking about peace, then they switched from peace to escalate to de-escalate. So you're seeing a flip in the mindset of Russia, man, which is the bear, which is going to be the one to take America down. And in at the beginning of the video says a great threat against America. All right, with You're Russia doing this. This is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 10. It says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought." Right. So you got Russia thinking that evil thought now. All right. It says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, and I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them that dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates." And ultimately, that's talking about America, because the way Russia is posting up on Ukraine like this, that's how you're gonna post up on America coming through Canada, and America's not gonna be able to do shit about it. All right, so America is going to be that land of unwalled villages, and they're showing their military might and force and their gall, starting out with Ukraine and daring anybody to take a move. And then you have China doing the same thing in Taiwan, daring anybody to make a move, mainly the United States. All right, it says Moscow tensions between Russia and the West have escalated further this week, with Russia staging more military exercises in the Black Sea and massing thousands of forces at Ukraine's border. In a clear sign of cooling relations, the United States ambassador in Moscow confirmed he was leaving the country for consultation back in the U.S. He didn't want to have no parts of that. He said over 20 Russian vessels took part in the latest exercise along with Su-25SM-3 attack aircraft as part of a check of fleet forces. Russia's Black Sea Fleet said on Tuesday. Russia also announced that it was closing the airspace over parts of Crimea and the Black Sea, saying the area has been declared temporarily dangerous for aircraft flights. Russia's Interfax news agency reported on Tuesday, citing an official notice sent to pilots. So anybody that flies over that airspace, he's just letting them know that they're gonna gun them down. That's why they're setting up forces over there. It says over 100,000 Russian forces have massed on Ukraine's border and in Crimea, and the Office of European Union Foreign Affairs Chief Joseph Borrell said after a briefing by Ukraine's foreign minister. It says Crimea is the peninsula that was unilaterally annexed away from um, Ukraine by President Vladimir Putin in 2014. His government now considers it Russian territory, and while the U.S. and Europe have refused to acknowledge the takeover, the Russian military has formed control over the outcrop of the land in the Black Sea. All right, so they're saying you don't have to acknowledge us as being the rulers over Crimea. We're going to acknowledge it ourselves and show force behind it. All right, it says it is the highest military development of Russian army in Ukraine borders ever, said Burrell. He initially said Russia had massed over 150,000 troops in the region, but his comments were later corrected without elaboration. The Maxar satellite imagery company provided almost a dozen images on Tuesday that it said should increase movements in an influx of Russian military hardware at numerous locations in Crimea, Ukraine, and near the shared border over the past several weeks. So that's a show of force. So Russia's not playing, man. They're ready to get busy. It's either get down or lay down. And if America backs down, from this conflict and doesn't come to the aid of Ukraine, it shows America is getting soft. Like how the scripture says, has they become weak as we? Has they become like unto us? All right, and that's America is the foundation of Edom. America is the foundation of Edom, man. All right, America is the one that's pushing the Roman values that was set up by Rome financially and militarily put back together with the NATO and the European Union and being the hammer, um, is America, which is mainly really the finance. I mean, not the finance, but the military backing flexes and muscle. But America has NATO to back them up. It's like who can make war with the beast, you know? So with America being backed up by the beast, which is NATO, who can make war with America? But Russia is the bear, which is enough to go into the land of unwalled villages, because you're going to have these European nations that's going to turn and hate the whore, and they're gonna bag off of America, which is going to give Russia the green light to overtake America and get America out the picture. And this is what this whole setup is about, man. Getting America out of the way, all right, and continuing in the new world order that was set up by the European Union and NATO. You know, they was using America just to set the foundations, and they just use America for the old world order, and now they're going to do away with America for the new world order, man. All right, it says the buildup has come amid a spike in hostilities in eastern Ukraine, where Russian-backed separatists have been locked in a simmering war with Ukraine, US, and Europe-backed military since 2014. The increase in the violence in eastern Ukraine has raised fears internationally of all possible flare-ups in the so-called frozen conflict. While U.S. military officials haven't seen anything yet to suggest Russia is gearing up for a, imminent cross-border incursion into Ukraine, the United States, the UK, and Europe states have criticized Moscow for their military buildup. All right, so this goes on to talk about all the military buildup that's going on in Ukraine. All right, so I put the a link to this article in the description box, man, and let you guys read the rest of it and really take in what's going on, and possibly make lessons on top of that. But yeah, you see it, man. You see it. The bear is becoming a bear, you know. And don't be surprised if Russia backs off again, lets things die down, and then runs in and attack again, because that's how bears operate. All right. They annexed Crimea, went in through Ukraine in 2014. Then they talked about peace, peace. They backed off. Now, boom, they're on the attack mode again. All right, and that's all. That's all according to the will of Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. With that being said, like I said, Kah Halayim La Yahweh by Shem Yahushai by Shem Harakakwadash my mouth. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, and my elder Harold One as well. Salutations to the Arkham that are pushing the truth and sincerity and truth, and peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. Shalom.